Well, gentlemen, welcome to Resolute. This is Man Talk. My name is Vince Miller. I'm your founder and host. We're excited to be with you today. We're in a series that we've entitled 30 Virtues That Build a Man, following along in a series with our newest resource for you. Today we're looking at prayer and looking at what it means to have disciplined communication, not only with each other, but with God. I'm sitting here with John Cook. Thanks for being with us today.
I'm glad I'm here, and I love that phrase, disciplined communication.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it funny? It's kind of
I've never really heard it
twist.
that way.
Yeah, it is. It's not only a discipline, it's disciplined communication, right? It's the way we do it, and it's what it is. So we're going to dive into that today. You know, I think guys overall, John, have a real struggle in communicating. I think as I teed up in the video this week to kind of pre-release this show was I think we do focus on how we communicate with other people when our identity is at stake. For example, if we're working up a show like this or I'm speaking publicly, I put a lot of time into the communication. But when it comes to communicating to the people that I love the most, or I say that I love the most, right, I probably do the least effective job at communicating. I had a couple of those situations this week with my wife and my kids where, you know, I just handled communication poorly. And I think that says something about how we appreciate people and even our love relationship with those people. But to me, that just says that communication is incredibly challenging. Would you agree with that?
I mean, I think communication is incredibly difficult, and I would agree with you. I'm much different at work when I'm preparing for a speech or presentation versus at home when I'm sitting in the sofa. Yeah. And I just want to relax.
Yeah, and we kind of almost turn off the skill at that point. And of course, today we're talking about prayer, right? It is a discipline, and we have to be disciplined to do it, right? So it disciplines us, and it's a discipline on how we engage with God. But I think it's interesting because prayer is just simply communicating with God. But I think it's very challenging for most guys, and I think there's reasons why, but why do you think it's challenging for guys?
I think it's challenging for me because there's just so many pleasures all around us. I want to be watching Netflix, for example. I've had a long day. I deserve it. Or at least I tell myself I do, right? That's what the world tells me I deserve. But I think it's distractions and just the comforts, of this world. And I know there's this great C.S. Lewis quote that I love, and it's that God whispers in our pleasures and shouts in our pain. So we kind of hear more from God, I think, when it gets, or I'll pray more to God when things get more difficult. Like when my mom had cancer, for example, I prayed a lot differently then than I did when she was healthy.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I think sometimes we do turn to God when we need Him, right? But otherwise, there's kind of this lacking discipline of communication with God until we're being disciplined. And I think that's quite fascinating.
That's powerful.
I got to tell you, I think that men are very challenged in their prayer life, just communicating with God. And I think it's predominantly because they're praying to someone they can't see.
Right.
It's really challenging. I have found so many men when they begin a relationship with Christ stumble over that. How do I do it? What does it look like? And you try to describe it to them. You try to give them some tactics or an understanding of it. But it's still this very supernatural idea. It's the idea of communicating to someone that you can't see and kind of doing it incessantly. Yet the statistics say, and these are 2014 statistics from Pew Research, they said they found that 23% of Christians never or seldom pray. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people don't pray?
I mean, I just think we're busy, right? We got a lot of distractions in our life, and at the same time, we just don't prioritize it.
Yeah, I think some of it is priority, bottom line. Bottom line, I think it's that we love the other things more than we love the communication with God. I do believe that is the absolute bottom line. Now, let me ask you a really personal question, because I think most guys out there would love to hear you answer this. Do you wish you prayed more?
I wish I prayed for other people more. I've got my routine of praying for certain things every day, right? But when I really dig deep, why am I not praying for other people in my life the way I pray for myself and my wife, for example? I don't know why that is, but I think it exposes my selfishness in a lot of ways, and that I'm not really thinking of others more than I am myself, like I'm instructed to do.
Yeah. Do you think that most men pray that way, actually? Do you think that most of them pray pretty selfish prayers, meaning self-focused prayers?
I think so, because we think about our careers so much and finances, and we want to be able to provide. And I think some of that's good. I think I'm supposed to provide and protect my family. So I think when it comes down to it, yeah, they're praying for careers and safety for their families and things like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. In fact, I've faced some of these challenges even in my own life as I think introspectively about, just why I pray, how I pray, what it looks like when I pray, what it looks like, not only what it looks like when I pray, but what it says about my relationship with God. And I think that's a very hard question for us to answer sometimes. But if we're only praying for ourselves and we're only praying for pain, it does paint a picture of what we think about God. Like he's only giving us stuff, or he only is rescuing us from stuff. But maybe God wants something more for us. And I think that's where prayer is starting to kind of get defined. That's where I think the challenge is to really read the text that we were talking about today from 30 Virtues That Build a Man. I love this text. It's from Matthew 6. Jesus is actually teaching his disciples how to pray, right? And in Matthew chapter 6, 5 through 15, he says, when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, right? And he tells them to not be like hypocrites. Now, a hypocrite was an actor, a pretender, right? He tells them to not do that. And then when he tells him how to pray, he tells them to shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you, which I believe is Christ's way to teach them to go into a private place and expose your motive, have a conversation with God, and give him everything you got. Right? Give him everything you got there, because it's not about putting on a show for other people. It's about exposing who you are to the Almighty God. And then the funniest part about the whole stinking story here is that he teaches them how to pray, and he teaches them the prayer that we all know. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, and he goes on. And the funniest thing about this prayer is this prayer in today's society has become the most empty prayer that anybody ever prays.
It's true. It's just like the Pledge of Allegiance or something like that. It's just,
if we even know what that is anymore, the Pledge of Allegiance,
exactly.
Or the Star Spangled Banner, but it's just empty to us almost, right? And I can't tell you how many times, I used to work for a football team in the South, and we would pray that prayer right before we went out and played any game. And it was like, it was something that you didn't touch. It was something they always did, and it basically became a meaningless prayer for these guys to pray. I mean, most of them knew it. It was the South, so they prayed the prayer. But did they even know what they were saying or what they were talking about? And Jesus, when he teaches us to pray, I bet didn't expect for the prayer that he taught us to pray to become the most hypocritical prayer that human beings would ever pray. But he wasn't just teaching us a method on prayer. He was teaching us the way we should pray, the motive by which we should pray, and therefore saying, look, do it in secret. Make it private. Make it personal. Make it meaningful. Make it a dialogue between you and God. Not something you put on a show with somebody else, but something really meaningful, a meaningful communication that exposes the motive of who you are to the Almighty God. Not just asking for things, not just helping you with your pain, but a place where you and God have almost a transaction, a transformational experience.
That's good. I mean, so do you pray that exact prayer, or do you pray another form of that prayer when you pray?
That's really good. So here's where my spiritual life began. I remember when I started my relationship with Christ, I began with the ACTS method of prayer. Now, ACTS is an acrostic. It stands for adoration, confession, thanksgiving, and supplication. So ACTS, ACTS.
Oh, that's so
good. Real simple,
it's easy
right?
to remember.
And here's what I love about that method of prayer is it has me work through a methodology or a method process before I get to asking for things. So basically supplication is asking for things. So what I got to go through first before I get to asking to things, supplication is adoring God, confessing things to God, thanking God for things, and then finally asking Him. And I have found that it basically rewires my communication with Him. It causes me to kind of let down on the things that I really wanted to get to. And by the time I get to the things that I really wanted to get to, He's usually reworked my motive and given me enough time. Yeah, exactly. I pray a little bit different. And even sometimes I ask for different things, John. Like it's amazing, but I get to the end and I'm like asking for different things. And that has helped me. I have used that for all of my Christian life, and I have no idea where it came from. In fact, I've tried to find it. I don't know who it came from, but whoever made that thing up, I got to tell you, it has been a life sin for me in my communication with God.
I love it. I mean, it's something I can use. It's just super clear. I mean, and it just, I think that's part of the problem with prayer too, is how do you start?
Yeah.
When you're, like you said, we're not talking to someone we can see. Right? Just to have a little roadmap for me could be super helpful.
Yeah, that's even a great question you ask, is just where do you start? And I think that's a good method for a process. But there's also all these tactics that we can use too. Like, throughout my life, I've tried to work out the discipline of prayer, because it is a discipline, right? It's a spiritual discipline, right? So it's kind of like going to the gym, right? You need a coach to help discipline you to build the discipline. And I think that's the challenge. Two guys like this sitting together, talking about prayer, using a book like 30 Virtues That Build a Man is a powerful tool for us to kind of go to the spiritual gym and to work on things.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, think about it. All of us guys can relate to that, right? Having that coach there or that friend.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're there, you're going to show up and you're going to do it. I think I even read this statistic recently where if you're just asked about going to work out or asked about doing something, it's actually working out. If a friend asks you at the beginning of the week, how often are you going to work out this week? You have 138% more exercise that you're going to do just because someone asked you and you're thinking about it. Isn't that crazy?
That's a crazy percentage. So if I asked you what days you're going to pray this week and how you're going to pray, the likelihood that you're going to pray is going to go up. So it's like having a spiritual coach sitting by your side.
Totally. And they just had to ask a question. I didn't even have to write it down.
Really?
I didn't even have to, maybe put a big plan in place. Someone just had to ask me about it because now I'm thinking about it.
138% more likely.
You'll do 138% more exercise if somebody asks you.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. So what we could do this week is ask each other what we're praying for or how we're praying. Or better yet, we can start to coach each other and put little tactics into place. So, for example, I'll give you a few little tactics I've used over time. So one of them is when I started off in my prayer life, I started journaling my prayers. Now, here's why I journaled my prayers, because it caused my thoughts to slow down, and I had to use a pen to write in a journal, like you have sitting on the table here. Use a journal to write them out, and it forced me to kind of get my heart out on a piece of paper.
I like that.
Usually a 30-minute prayer to fill up a couple of pages, slowing down. Another tactic I used was turning off the talk radio in the car, right? Like just turn off the talk radio and then turn my vehicle into a prayer box.
Yeah, I mean, that's 22 minutes on average of commute time.
Yeah, there you go. For the average guy, right? Just to turn it off, and I'm going to, take away the pleasures of the world, and I'm going to engage in a conversation with God. Or
I love that.
Here's another thing I used to do was keep kind of a prayer list of things that I was praying for other people, or set a timer, like on my phone or my watch, at certain times throughout the day, as to give me a bump to remember now's the time for prayer.
I love how you integrated it into your normal routine there with the whole car thing. I mean, it's just something we're already doing. Why not just use that time? With more wisdom,
Yeah. Just use the time wisely, like you said, and take advantage of the time that we already have.
Yeah.
And a couple of other little things I used to do that people love is send someone a prayer text. I mean, it's really powerful, but once in a while, text someone. I mean, any of you guys can do this. I mean, just text someone and say, "What can I pray for you about?" They send you back what they want to ask for, and then write out the prayer. Don't say you're going to do it later. Do it right then.
Nice.
Or here's something I used over the years too. I did this for a couple of years. It was powerful. I closed every meeting, regardless of who it was with, especially if it was an individual, with a prayer.
Wow.
Every meeting for a couple of years. It was incredible, the opportunities that God gave me. And I didn't tell them, tell me your prayer request and I'm going to pray later. No, I did it right then. What would you have me pray for? And then just do it. And I got to tell you, these little tactics are just gym strategies. They're muscle building strategies for us. So now you have some tactics to how to engage the discipline, and you also have a process for how to pray. I mean, guys, we just need to get involved now. That's it, right, John? Just need to do something.
Just take action, like you said there right at the end. Just do it. Just pray for him now.
Yeah, exactly. So, guys, thanks so much for being with us on the show today. We're glad that we had you with us. We want to make sure you got to get a copy of 30 Virtues That Build a Man. It's a great resource, right, John?
Oh, I love this book. We just did the study on, I think it was action last week. Yeah. But I just remember the thing that I really liked about it was that at the end of every lesson is a challenge. And we all three, left with this challenge to go home and communicate differently with our wives. And in fact, the challenge was show grace to your wives, or at least look for opportunities. And I think I used up my 3 challenges there where I was supposed to show her grace in like 1 hour. I mean, it was crazy. I mean,
That's awesome.
When you're just aware of what's happening and thinking differently, you're like, wow, I'm really easily offended. Like, what's going on with that? Or I'm kind of lazy,
Yeah.
But
I love it. This is it. I believe that 30 Virtues That Build a Man is a great tool for guys just like us who want to have a format for a conversation, a meaningful conversation, either mentoring or small group, kind of like you're using it. I think it's a great gift for a college student going off to college, a great gift for someone serving in the military, someone in a halfway house, someone challenged to look for someone to mentor them. That's kind of how I imagine it. It'd be a gift for you to take and invite someone else to mentor you in your life, regardless of your age or spiritual maturity. So, guys, I want to encourage you today to go get a copy of it. And with that, guys, I'll see you right back here next time on another edition of Man Talk.